Mark Willie and special guest Cheryl Ciecko. How are you guys today?
Good.
Yeah, it is so awesome to have. It is top of the morning. Beautiful. I'm glad you got your coffee mugs. I love it. I'm still waiting on some in the mail, but we got quite a few coming, so which is excited. I love it. This is going to be such a fun episode because I think it is so pertinent to everybody, not just building new, but I mean, people that live in older homes, people that live, in any home for that matter. I think this is going to be so great. Cheryl, your company is avoidingmold.com, and you have a personal experience that drove you into this from what I'm understanding. So can you give us a little bit about who you are, how you got into what you're doing today, and just a brief bio?
Yeah, so I'm Cheryl Ciecko, and I am a licensed architect and have been for over 30 years. And I am helping people who have water damage and mold in their buildings and have health effects from that. And I have I clearly have a personal story related to that. I do have a background in the wood industry. I did a stint doing high-rise buildings, but I've always been really focused and interested in building science and how things work and how buildings are put together. And so when my own family started having health issues, or someone in my own family, it was my daughter 15 years ago when she was 10. We had moved into a house temporarily to live in that while we were building another house and she'd always been very sensitive, but all of a sudden she had full-on asthma and she had inhalers at home and in school, and she was really struggling. And then she started having migraine headaches and it got really scary. And I happened to go to a continuing education program, which I have to do for my license, that was on mold in buildings. And what I learned there, and I share with everyone that wants to know what are the things that we don't think about, is that one, that you could be sick from something in your environment, in your building in particular, and not feel better when you left. So I always thought, okay, if it's something in your building, you leave your building, you feel much better. No, she was sick everywhere. And so I learned that you could be sleeping in something or breathing something where you sleep that can affect your entire health process. And you won't get better when you leave because you're spending so much time in that environment. And what I also learned was that you could have mold growing in your ductwork. Never occurred to me.
Right.
And so that process, we actually resolved that situation. She had full-on asthma inhalers, and now she doesn't. I mean, within a year she didn't. So how many other kids out there have asthma?
Right.
That maybe they don't have asthma, maybe they have a toxic environment that they're living in. And she was sick at home, at school, at her friends' houses, at restaurants, outside. Wow. So my journey was, wanted to fix that, and we built a house to hopefully be safe for her, but along the way started learning more and more things. And one thing that I learned along the way, some mistakes were made, but I also learned that not everybody, I have 4 children that I've raised, and my husband and I, and that we actually were all affected, but in different ways that were completely different. And I only know that in retrospect, because when you're in it, you're just like, oh, now this kid has ADD and that kid is breaking things, and and autoimmune disease is popping up, and it takes a while to put that all together. So what ended up happening was, in one of our health bouts, I started researching health, and more people were, and then I'd see people talking about their buildings and saying, oh, my doctor told me to move to New Mexico, or my doctor told me to live in a slab house, or my doctor told me to get this air purifier. And I'm thinking, what? No, that's, you gotta figure out what your problem is in your buildings. And I started realizing that my own journey, that we were able to recover because of what I know about buildings. And as I was and responding to people, researching our own health issues, people started coming to me, and they started texting me and in droves and saying, Cheryl, you sound like you know something about buildings. What about this? Why not that? And little by little, then I started a Facebook page, because there was too many people to help for free individually and ask the same questions. And that Facebook page is over 3,000 people in it. Now it's avoiding water damage, mold, and toxins, and I don't advertise at all. but that was my venue to help people for free, basically, because I figured, okay, I'll answer these questions, and then at least a lot of people can read the answers.
Yeah.
To spread awareness. So, and then it just evolved to people wanted to work with me one-on-one, and it was the role that I have, where I help people around the world, mostly North America, but anywhere, because I do it virtually. I found I could inspect buildings, or review buildings, I should say, virtually, that I could find and see potential defects using photographs and video online. And then we could have video chats, and I could actually help people. And so little by little, I have a tiger by the tail, because it's such a big problem. And there's so many people whose health is affected. And there's people who don't even realize that their health might be affected. And so my goal and my mission and what I'm doing through my website, and I've created programs that are recorded, because I can only help so many people one-on-one.
Right.
So I'm just trying to raise awareness, and through the recorded things that I do that make it really affordable. I do a lot of free stuff. On my public Facebook page, I post. On my LinkedIn, I post when I see tidbits, and that might be helpful. And just
it sounds like a lot of people are living their lives and going in and out of buildings, and to them, their experiences of discomfort and rashes and whatnot are what they consider to be normal, right, Cheryl?
Exactly. I mean, most people are like, oh, it's normal that I have arthritis. I'm just older. Yeah. Or this is all senior brain fog. I can't remember where I put my keys. I get in the car. I don't know where I'm going. Or, I'm just under stress, so that's why my mood's swinging. Or I'm depressed because of, the world in general. But sometimes you start thinking, why are my sinuses full all the time?
Yeah.
And that, that's another one. So I just always have sinuses. I catch every bug that comes along. Maybe not.
Yeah, it might be the house.
Or we all have a weak link. So as I said, my family they all had different things going on that I only recognized later. My husband and I both ended up with an autoimmune disease that was very different. My daughter had an autoimmune disease. And so, but what I realized is everybody's weak link is different.
Yeah.
History is different. And so how this burden, the air we breathe, is a huge part of our life.
Well, we can't talk about air yet, Cheryl.
Yeah, we can't talk about
a later segment. That's covered at a later segment.
Okay, but the air, food, I mean, it's really, it ended up being a lifestyle thing for my family, but it came back to the buildings where we live, where we sleep. So when we heal, that's important. And the air we breathe can be a big burden for the other things to not be able to, recover.
Well, let me jump in right there real quick. I mean, this is what's great. And I just want to shout out everybody that's joining us. This is an episode of BS Friday. And if you don't know what it stands for, you can take a guess and put it in the comments. Try and keep it clean, but there's really no need to. We won't be offended if you don't, but we might have some younger people watching. I think please like and share this as well. We'd love to hear from you. We have comments already rolling in and stuff go. So we're going to start putting some stuff on the screen. And I'm going to let Mark jump in because I know he just loves this whole conversation. But I'm going to say, this is what's so great about this show is, Cheryl, your desire to help people came from a personal experience. So what you're doing sounds like it's really coming from the heart and not coming from a money-making thing. Like you lived and breathed it and had health issues in your house. And I can hear that. I can see it in the passion. And we're going to roll through these and try and hit all these categories over the next 30, 40 minutes here. So this is going to be fun. What do you think, Mark?
Hey, I love generating support and health and insight for people for free. And then what happens is they discover that there's more going on in their schools and their workplaces and their private residences, and then they need experienced people to hire and to assist them to navigate through so that they are feeling healthy. So, Cheryl, can you tell us what is normal?
What is normal? What is normal? Normal, yeah, that's the thing, is we don't know what normal is. So say we have a light bulb and we think, oh, the light's on. that's working. And then, but we don't even realize that the light bulb has become dimmer because the light bulb's still on, but there could be, say there's a defect in the wiring, and then you replace, or the bulb is older and you replace it, and you're like, whoa, look at that light come on. There was something wrong, and I didn't even know what bright light could be in this room, for instance. And the same thing can be with our health. So, but normal, I don't know if that was where we were going with this, but
you touched on it really well as well a minute ago, and I love the light bulb theory. And it's that part of people always forgetting their keys or getting used to these rashes, right? We just get used to having a headache, and we're considering that normal, or we think, well, maybe it's because I didn't eat my sandwich at 10:58, or I didn't have my banana at 3:15. You might be doing your health and activity like a rock star, right? Like an athlete. But that environment, it's having an effect.
Right. And you may not even know what your potential is because of this lingering burden in the background. And some people find out when they go on vacation, say they go on a vacation somewhere, they're gone for a couple of weeks, and they realize, oh, my sinus is cleared up at the beach for 2 weeks. Then they come back to their home and they're like, this is weird.
Yeah.
My rash came back, or my nosebleeds came back, or I have a headache every day when I'm here. I wonder, with everybody working at home, if anybody has experienced this. It could go either way though, because it could be their office that's toxic.
Right. And it's not, it could be physical, or it could be the mental symptoms is what I'm hearing from you, right? Like you feel like your memory loss, or you're forgetting things, and it may just be the environment that you're in versus, a real mental health issue. And I think that's a very, very significant thing that you said.
Yeah. One of the symptoms.
Maybe I'm not going crazy.
Yeah. Well, one of the symptoms that's really, I said crazy, and I thought of that word crazy because it is crazy, is there's this thing called, it's actually a thing called mold rage. And some people who are exposed to mold, it affects the endocrine system, and I've seen it. I've seen it in my clients. Right. I've had clients where, say, one of the spouse, the husband or the wife, has a certain health effect, and then the other person is like very angry.
So it's like gamma rays, right? Dr. David Banner turns it to the Incredible Hulk, and
well, think about the prison.
Don't make me rip my shirt off, Mark.
Or the prison system, or people getting, randomly, shooting their family or something. And it's like, could it be that there's something that can affect their brain that is toxic in the environment that could be behind some of this? Like I said about asthma in schools, or the ability to concentrate for kids. If you live in an environment that there was something that happened in, I don't even know what the year was, but I think it was Cleveland, where a bunch of little babies were dying of SIDS, and they put together that they all had water damage in the basements when the buildings were being inspected. Now that was actually set aside as no, it wasn't valid by the powers that be. But there's a book I would recommend. It's called, it's got something to do with carpet. I'd have to actually look that one up. Carpet muggers, something like that. But it's out of print. But I already bought it, and it had all this interesting background on that topic. And so it's really complicated, just even politically. So.
Well, Dave and I aren't political at all, right? So we're
political.
We're just off-site freaks.
Why don't we say hi to a few people while we have it?
I would love it. Who's with us today, Jennifer?
Oh, we got David Goethals. Looking forward to a great BS session.
We are as well, David.
We are. We also have, hello, good morning, everyone. Sue Dietrich. Thanks, Sue, for joining us. We love it. And then, of course, does anybody know this guy? He's all over the place. He says thumbs up to health. Moving through, we got Jennifer. Can you really have mold in your ductwork? I think that's such a powerful thing, to really, really understand. And I don't think people realize that, because they think air's blowing through. It's got to be dry.
I think Jennifer's setting us up for a segue called seal it tight, ventilate it right.
Yeah. We also have Diana Willie, Blue Skies. We have
That's my mother. Hi, Mom.
Was that your mom? All right, we got to talk now.
Yeah, BS.
We got to
She
BS,
uses
you and
the
I.
BS.
Right. We have the chair of the Building Systems Council, Tiffany McCall. Thanks for joining us, Tiffany. It's always great to see you. NAHB, love it. And here we'll take one more and we'll keep rocking and rolling. We got Shane Mcnutt. Hey, Shane. Thanks for joining us again today. Good morning to you as well.
Shane sent us each a couple of coffee mugs, so he gets the shout out of the day. Double fisted shout out to Shane.
Hey Shane, thanks, man. I haven't seen mine yet because I'm traveling in Pittsburgh, but I love it. Awesome, you guys are awesome, and we will be drinking coffee mugs on the show. All right,
okay, Cheryl, take us away. Seal it tight, ventilate it right. What the heck is that all about?
Yeah, so it begs the question of this whole concept of mold in buildings and water damage in buildings. Is like, why is this happening? Why now? The health effects. Haven't we always had, mold and water damage in buildings? And the truth is, we have. What's happened though is this is an unintended consequence of the sustainability movement. So we've tightened up our buildings, sealed them tight, but they're not able to dry. So we still are building them the same way that we always had, although I think there's good argument to say that we need to build differently. And but we're building them largely the way we always have on a outside in the weather with labor that comes and goes that may or may not be specialized. And if water can get in and not dry because we built it tight, that's a problem. So ventilation and refreshing the air, and I'm often telling people who initially think they might have a mold or water damage issue, open the windows, open the windows. So we do want to focus on ventilation, and air tightness isn't going to go away. The sustainability movement's a great thing, but we have to start then. This is basically an unintended consequence of okay, oh, whoops, we tightened everything up, but we didn't think about what could happen because of it being tightened up. And then if there is a leak that used to be hundreds of them in a building, now there's 5 or 6 or 3 or 2, even 1. That can be a big burden and cause a lot of problems. Yeah. Never dry.
Right.
Cheryl, can you comment to what Jennifer posted about the ductworks? Can there be mold in ductwork? Can mold grow on metal? Boy, mold grow on metal?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite topics because I was surprised. It's like mold.
Yeah.
Think of it. I inspected the house we bought. I inspected the basement. I looked at the wood trim. I looked at the big overhangs. Simple roof. All these things. But I didn't know that mold could grow on actually any material, including metal. And the reason why is because of, what does mold need? Mold needs moisture. Okay, that's going to be everywhere. It needs a certain temperature, pretty much the temperature where we live. It needs oxygen. Okay, well, that's going to be where we are. But the other thing it needs is a food supply. And we think, oh, metal's not a food supply for mold. But you know what is a food supply for mold?
Dust.
Yes.
Dirt.
And dirt and dust is everywhere. And if you've ever looked up what a dust mite is,
they're ugly, right?
Breakfast. If you're eating breakfast, stop eating. But don't look up look up dust mites. But it's basically the food source for mold can be dust mites, dust mite fecal matter, the carcasses of dust mites, and then the dead skin cells, which they eat, which are just natural in the environment. So dust is everywhere. And it's so...
Cheryl, you're making me hungry right now. Yeah, you're making me hungry right now. I just love a good dust mite sandwich on a Friday afternoon.
But the bottom line is that you can, in metal, on concrete, on that mold-free surface that, you painted a coating on, if there's dirt and dust, and there's the right humidity or condensation or another bulk water source of some sort, then you can have mold growing on anything, absolutely anything. The key that we can control is not the food source, it's actually the water.
Love it. That's perfect. So listen, everybody, if you're joining us, we got comments coming in, so this is fun. This is a BS Friday. We have Cheryl, Ciecko, and Mark Bare Naked Willie on with us today. And I just got to give a shout out. I've been on the road, and my brother's been kind enough to let me use his space here which way is it? Salvage Pittsburgh, where they go in and they reclaim old buildings and old material to keep it out of the landfill. They refinish it and repurpose it and put it back out where somebody can make a good use of something that otherwise would have been in the garbage. So Salvage Pittsburgh, big shout out to my brother. Thank you. You got to plug your brother, right? I mean, that's
much respect to Salvage. Brian, you have a great operation out there. We will post you again today, and I'm jealous. You have better doors than I do, Brian.
Yeah, there's definitely some amazing stuff in here for sure. You want to put that up? Yeah, okay. So mold can grow on metal. Mold needs moisture, temp. We want to make sure everybody understands this, right? We got them all. Moisture, temperature, oxygen are the main things, right? That mold needs. And you're saying in ductwork, especially old ductwork, if I think about this, a lot of the old ductwork isn't insulated, right? So it's like taking a glass of ice water from the house into the heat. It sweats, and that's what causes that moisture. And is that what's causing the mold in these old houses? You got, like, in a cold basement, you got hot ductwork running.
Yeah, but what's funny is it's not old houses only that's affected.
New houses too, right?
New ones. And you're right on it. Condensation on metal ductwork is a big part of it.
Right.
Part of that is duct leakage. So the ducts aren't sealed.
Got it.
Yeah. And some of the biggest locations where this is a problem is in places like Texas, Florida, southern part of the United States. They're running their ductwork through unconditioned attic spaces. Unconditioned spaces. So you're running 50-degree air in metal ducts, and sometimes it's flex duct, which is not even cleanable, and it reduces the volume, but it still has metal coils.
Right.
That the air, it's in 150-degree temperature. It's trying to blow through. That's hot.
A little bit of condensation going on.
Yeah.
All kinds. And so in my case, it was in a basement. So the ductwork was in a basement, which is, and you have humidity in our buildings. People will say, "Oh, I'm conditioning everything. There's no humidity." No. We breathe humidity. We sweat humidity. It comes off of our skin. When we
we cook pasta. Hello.
Yeah, that pan of pasta, sautéing the eggs for breakfast.
Right.
The vegetables, there's steam coming off. That's a lot of moisture. When we take a shower. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we running a bath fan? Do we know where the bath fan's going? Are we, is the humidity coming out of the room, or is it just all soaking into that gypsum drywall?
Sure. Okay. Well, that's what Rick Hawkins has to say.
I agree with Rick. I had a great conversation, Dave, with Rick after the show last week. He popped on and gave me his phone number via LinkedIn. I don't think people realize you can actually call people that you meet on LinkedIn. So Rick and I talked for an hour and a half. Great guy, and he's getting a coffee mug from me because he was so helpful. And Good. Speaking of the seal it tight and ventilate it right and the mold and just your passion and excitement about how to fix all this, Cheryl, I gotta think, like, you've also seen some things that are just not right? And I just got to ask a question. And Dave, I think halfway through every show we have to ask this question. Maybe you can make a banner or something that says, What is the stupidest thing you have ever seen?
Yep.
There you go, Dave. Love it.
Yeah. You gotta love the delay of live feed.
Let's put you on the spot, Cheryl. Give the world your eye-opening experience of what is the stupidest thing you have ever seen.
Okay, I have a few, but I have one in particular that's going to come off of what we just talked about taking your shower in your bathroom. So, and we're talking about ventilation. So the exhaust fans, so we have these exhaust fans. Most people don't know where they go. Some people's exhaust fans go right into their attic. And then all that warm moisture is going to stay in the attic. The other stupidest thing I've ever seen, this happens on every price point for houses, low end, high end, is they're running the exhaust fan out the soffit. Okay, let's think about this. The soffit is an intake for ventilation into the attic. and we're trying to blow warm, moist air, oftentimes making it go great distances, down against gravity. Warm, moist air wants to rise. We all learned that in 3rd grade. Right next to an air intake vent that's going to draw all that warm, moist air into the attic. And there's not enough ventilation to be pulling it out of the attic. So whether you're exhausting in the attic or out the soffits, the attics end up full of mold. And people will say, oh, but that's not going to affect the living space. Well, we have all these positive, negative pressure things happening that it does affect the living space, just depending on which way the wind blows. So the stupidest thing I see are these ducts hanging out of soffits when buildings are under construction that are going to be right next to the air intake into the attic, and just crazy stuff. So that's my contribution to the stupidest thing I've ever seen and keep seeing. And one of my missions is to make that code more clear, because to be honest, about 10 years ago, there was a code that said in a lot of places that you could exhaust into the attic.
Right.
Or is it be that write codes don't put up a big flag and say, hey, whoa, we're going to change our mind on this one.
Okay, so what we have to remember is whatever code says today, by the time you get the land or buy the building and modify it or design a property and build it, the code's already going to be progressed, right? Because time keeps going. So if we all build beyond code and we all build with higher quality measures, maybe like offsite technology, for instance, now, why are we living in the world of 2020 when we could be building, I don't know, let's say if we're building 100-year buildings, should we be building a building today based on the code in 100 years?
Yeah, it's important to know that codes are bare minimum too. I mean, do we really want to build our house to a bare minimum, or should we be striving for best practice? Yeah. And that's what I'm always focusing on is, okay, yeah, I get it. It's bare minimum. There's a lot of variables. Look at climate. I mean, what you do in the South and what you do in the North and the East and the West and the middle.
Oh, wait, you're saying where we build and how we build has a correlation and is important?
Yeah.
That's too much for my mind on a Friday. Good night, nurse. Holy cow.
So what you're saying is we should not build the same home in South Texas that we're building in lovely New England?
Or Minnesota or Washington State, Seattle.
Right. So let it be known. Let it be known. Let's get a soapbox on every street corner and let people know that what you build and where you build it has to be designed for that site with the quality needed and the craftsmanship needed for that site. Let that be known that that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, so all right, so we're going to continue this conversation because you hit a nerve on Mark over there. I saw his beard stand up. That's what happened. I just saw it. So let's get to some people that have joined us before we move on to the next topic. If you guys are all right with that, we had some comments. Mark, I think your mom actually commented on one, so we got to put mom first. How do you clean your ducts?
That's all you, Cheryl. That's all you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you that this is one of the mistakes I made. So I research. I mean, one of my middle name is research, I think, or should be. So I knew that I actually had the ducts tested, but it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't have all that dirt and dust in there, and it's normal that it would collect over time. And you should probably get your ducts. People should have their ducts cleaned roughly every 8 years, 10 years. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends if you have carpet, because carpet fibers end up in the ducts as well. Pets, animal dander, it ends up in the ducts. And so I researched some companies. I looked for somebody that was well regarded, and I hired them, and they turned out to be a scam.
Oh, no.
Even with my background, and you can Google, there's 60 Minutes programs on YouTube. They actually set people up where they had a person, and often an older person, I think, in some of these, where they had somebody come in and they had hidden cameras, and it's not regulated. So how do you clean them? You do have to hire someone to clean them, and and there is an organization, the National Association of Duct Cleaners. I can give you the acronym. I have to NADCA, I think, and
They need a better acronym. That's just
it's really kind of hard to remember. So
Yeah,
I double check.
How about a better one? Like you live in filth and you're hurting your family. That sounds like a better one.
So I would start with somebody that's taken their courses and is certified by them, but that's my scam company was certified by them.
Right, right.
And so then you want to look for recommendations, and it's probably not going to be the cheapest one out there. I wouldn't even consider it a coupon. Forget the coupons. If they do other things, if they do carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaning, I would probably not consider them because this is actually really specialized. Yeah. So get somebody that does hospitals too. That would be a good reference.
Can they use environmentally friendly products to clean these ducts, like infrared lights, or like what can they use to actually, so you don't add chemicals to the
Well, yeah, they're actually using air movement. So they'll come to the building, and they can do this in apartments too, with basically a high-powered suction. And what they do is they need to seal off all the ducts, all the air returns and supplies, so that there's really strong negative pressure. Because if you have just even one open, you'll reduce the volume of air that can be moving. And then they basically go opening by opening, and then they put a tool inside from the inside that bangs around and blows air and dislodges the dirt and dust from the surfaces. Unfortunately, the flex duct is hard to clean. And so a lot of us are using flex duct, or builders are using, and that's almost a replace only. And whoever thinks of that in 10 years, we're going to have to replace all our flex duct.
Right.
So you want to use it.
I tell you, when you were talking about sealing the ducts and doing that test, it took me back to one of my first blower door tests we did, where
I was thinking the same thing.
Depressurized the house, right? We had the red door up, and everything was done. They had the old terrible gas water heater, and so we had to take care of all that stuff. And there's one thing we missed. We did not close the doors on the fireplace, or actually I think they blew open. And so, you got 50 pascals depressurizing that house and pulling everything out. I don't know when the last time these folks had cleaned their fireplace, but I guarantee you their entire living room and great room was covered in soot. So so there's a health lesson for you.
Well, that's what happened to me, actually. So the scammers, they had a camera. They had it all. They're going to show me the inside. This will look really good. But I started to notice that one guy kept trying to keep me talking, and away from the other guy. And I just intuitively got the impression that they were closing up ducts before they were actually cleaning them. They were going through really fast. And so I asked them to open one, and I just stuck my arm down in there. And they supposedly had cleaned it. And I pulled out a wad of stuff, and I basically threw them out. In the process, they blew dust through my entire house, and my dust was full.
I would have loved to have a camera on them when you threw them out. That seems
I have presentations on this that are available online, and I have one on duct cleaning. I did bring a duct cleaner on, and that was available on my website. And then there's several that I actually show pictures of my house and my kids helping me clean up, because my husband was traveling. I had these 4 little kids, and the house is covered in this dust that was actually toxic. And not toxic just because dust is toxic, which it is, but because it had Aspergillus mold in it. So mold grows on the dust. That's the biologic matter. And you want to be really careful, and you want to pay attention to what they're doing. And I would recommend the video I have, the interview that I did with the duct cleaner, because he talks a lot about the process. And I would talk to several people and ask them what exactly they're going to do, what equipment are they going to bring, and don't be sold by the camera, because that's oftentimes, they show one thing. And
I use the camera all the time.
Unless you're watching Dave Cooper live, then the camera is very important.
Yeah.
The camera in your ducts, it can be a sales tool but ask them who they do work for that's commercial, especially a hospital.
So get referrals and everything else, and check the background for sure. Well, let's take a moment and give a few shout outs to people that have joined us today to touch base, right? I had it up a little early. We have from Texas, Andrew Seeley. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Thanks for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. We have George Ryman joining us. Hey, George. Hard to open the windows in the Arizona summer, George says. So, well, that's true. I bet it's hot. It's been hot here. What else do we got? Oh, Tara Kelly. Good morning from how do you say it? Shikshini, PA. Terrible flood zone area.
PA.
Shikshini, PA. Say that 5 times.
Shikshini, PA. Shikshini, PA. That's enough.
You did good. You did good. All right. I think Sue Dietrich had a smiley face there, which was great. Let me keep going down here. Man, we got them coming in. Brian Iverson.
Good morning to you, Andrew. I know you understand condensation very, very well, living in Texas. And that's the segue, my friends. We're going to talk about the harshest chemical on the planet, the one that beats all of our buildings. What is it? Let's see. Water always wins.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How you like that little water symbol there, Mark? We're getting pretty high tech.
This is amazing.
And it's something we need. You know, it's really important, but it's also something we need to manage.
So while you start talking, Cheryl, I'm gonna pour some wine in a glass, and I'm gonna pour it to a Mark, and I'm gonna put some wood in it, and I'm gonna let you talk to people about. Well, I think there's a couple of ways that water affects our building, and I'm gonna let you spiel that off in a couple ways.
Yeah, we talked about all the different ways of water, or some of the ways, and don't drink that wine.
I'm getting thirsty now. This is more torture than it is science.
Yeah, I want some. So we talked about water coming off of our skin and the air we breathe and cooking. There's other sources. So we have bulk water, and there's other way, which is rain, but it counts. We are sprinkler systems. It can be leaks. There's other ways. One way that Mark's going to demonstrate here that water moves through building is called capillary action. And it's called, another way that we can refer to that as wicking. So water, and people asked about floods. So one way that our buildings get wet is just improper site planning, causing our buildings to get wet, our concrete foundations to get wet. And then we have water wicks up from the concrete, which is a giant sponge, into the wood structure or the masonry structure, ultimately into the drywall, and it can't dry. But it will try to dry to the inside always, and then we start raising the humidity indoors, and that's when condensation over time starts rising. And so what did we get there, Mark, in terms of our capillary action?
So we've been going for about 30 seconds right now, and I started just below the one.
Hold it up a little higher. Hold it up a little higher.
Yeah, higher. There
you go.
So in about 40 seconds, we raised 3/4 of an inch through capillary action. That's one of the times in life where water appears to defy gravity. It literally runs vertical, not just uphill, but straight up in the air. Capillary action, and Cheryl is also. We're not going to get in this today because we'll go on for 4 hours. But Cheryl is a wood expert. One thing we all know, that wood comes from a tree, and the tree, while it's growing, is bringing water up through its root system. So this capillary action shows literally it's still growing as we speak. Now we're up to 1 inch of growth, and it's not even in the wine anymore. So we've just gone from 3/4 to 1 inch. While it's out of the wine. So back to you, Cheryl.
Yeah, it's from cell to cell. So the tree has like cell structure. It's like a straw, but they're individual cells. And capillary action has to do with the surface tension of water being able to basically rise. And because of the surface tension, if I put a drop on my finger, you would see a curve, and I could probably put my other finger close to the drop and get it to jump. And so you want to keep the distances for that. But no, this isn't just wood. Concrete, masonry, drywall, all these materials have that property where we can water will wick up. And I've seen it a foot, even up to 2 feet. And if you start looking around, especially at masonry and concrete, and start looking at buildings, like especially against sidewalks where the sidewalk might drain into the building, and you can start seeing this everywhere. It actually has a name. It's called rising damp. So
rising dam, we'll put that up there.
The word of the day is rising dam, everyone.
Rising damp. And so managing our site is another topic that I focus on. I actually have a whole course that I offer recorded. You can listen to me talk for like 12 hours or 14 hours, I think, on all these topics. But one of the ways that we start is in planning the building and how we manage the site, and making sure water is going to not be up against our building ever. Even in Arizona, it rains never, but the one time it does, it's a deluge. And if we pay attention to that, then the water, like Mark showed it, wicking after the fact. And then where's it going to go in our super tight buildings that are well insulated?
So Cheryl, you mentioned Arizona. So if we have a crawl space, right? Because we're in Arizona, there's no humidity coming up from that ground, is there?
No, yes, there is. Arizona's a lot of slab construction, and it is a misnomer to think that there's not moisture in the ground. I think pretty much everywhere the actual relative humidity of the ground is 100%. But if there's plants growing somewhere, it's because there's water. And one way to test this is to even put a ground cloth down, or a plastic sheet, a tarp. Even in the desert, you can put a tarp down, and you'll end up with moisture on the underside because the water is still trying to leach out. And so every climate needs a really good vapor barrier under the slab. And that's actually the only place I would put a vapor barrier is in the slab construction or in the foundation construction.
So I couldn't agree with you more. And I always love this water and air and vapor barrier conversation. And you often take the temperature of the room in the BS world, and you say, what is bigger, water or air, right? And depending on who answers and who answers incorrectly, you have a good idea who your audience is and what you need to work on.
All right. You know, one of the things I'm going to jump in here that, you know, being a builder for all the years, a lot of people, they want a tight house, but then they don't want to spend money to put in the ERV or an HRV or an air circulation system, right? And what happens is, as the energy code's been changing, at least as we've seen it, and as builders through the years, you try and follow the code and the energy code, and you try and keep your price points at a place where it can be affordable to build the house and vice versa. But it always comes down to money. At least in my world, everybody typically has a budget. You know, and I think it's a very big misnomer for a lot of people that they don't understand that building an airtight home is only one part of the process. Because you end up building, you basically live in a plastic bag when you do that. And that's no good. So, you know, for people that are watching out there, I think it's really important for them to understand that airtight is not always great if you don't have the other systems in place to work with it. Is that what I'm hearing?
If you build an airtight building, right, then ask that contractor to stay in it. Ask that contractor to stay in it for a day and a half. So they'll be dead, right? Because they're going to run out of air. Not really a day and a half, but I'm making a point. So the building has to be designed, right? And it has to have the cubic footage of the building and the occupants in the building, so that you know how much to ventilate. And in a lot of designs, you have continuous ventilation, because you don't want, Cheryl will second this, I'm assuming, you don't want this furnace to kick on, and your furnace is delivering hot and cold temperatures depending on where you live. It's not necessarily delivering ventilation. So it kicks on and it kicks off. And I think the analogy Cheryl gave when we talked the other day, it's like starting up a truck and shutting it off, starting it up and shutting it off. You're just giving this burst, and it's more dangerous than possible. So not only design it, not only install it right, this ventilation system and this whole envelope for your building, but also commission it and verify that everything is dialed in correctly, and always know it's okay to open a window, right? Yeah. Like enough with the dialing it in and everything else. Also, hey, open the window, let the sun shine in, right? Let the air flow out, right? That it's not spring cleaning that makes you healthy. Every day can make you healthy.
Right. So the question that was being asked between you and Cheryl a few seconds before we talked about this was, what is bigger, water or air? And then after you answer it, we got to get to some comments here. We have a lot of people joining us, and I want to involve them in this. And look at its ride. I know it keeps going. Man,
it's not even in the wine. It's not even in the wine. It's just it's going.
Yeah,
we rose 2 inches outside of the wine in minutes. So I'm sure they're really safe. I'm sure they're really safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer is water for everybody. We got to simplify it, right? The answer is water. So there you have it. Sue Dietrich. Capillary action is the ability of liquid to flow in narrow spaces without the assistance of or even in opposition to external forces like gravity. Sue, first of all, thank you so much for participating. We love it. People put themselves out there. This is a conversation. Mark and I always say, whether you agree with us or you disagree with us, let's have a conversation. We all have thick skin, and I can tell just from this conversation with Cheryl, she has thick skin, and she'll argue it to the bone if she believes it. I can feel it coming. So, well, listen, let's get into some comments that were up here real quick, and then we're going to move in and keep going. I got to actually scroll up. That's what we have going on. So did we said hi to George Ryman already. Great. Rick Hawkins, we said. Tara Kelly, we said from I can't say it. Shinny, PA. We answered your mom. So I had Brian up there. I just want to say, Brian, hey, Brian from Minnesota. Great. He wrote, humidity happens all the time. Love it.
That's a good T-shirt right there. Humidity happens.
You are writing these down because we have new T-shirts every week, right? We'll have to try and keep up with Jerry McKay. He always has a new slogan, right? Maybe we should have a competition with him with new hats and T-shirts. And Cheryl, jump right in if you got some good T-shirts we can put up there.
I don't have any right now, but I see Sue Dietrich did put in the National Air Duct Cleaners Association. So they have a link on their website to find people who are certified according to, but like I said, my scam company was on that list. So that's just a starting point. It isn't regulated. So
I wish it was the National Association of Duck Associations so we could call them NADA. Sorry, folks. I'm sure you've got some wonderful people at NADCA, but NADA just sounds brilliant. So,
So for people that are out there watching this, Rick Hawkins makes a good point. I've seen this 1,000 times over and over again. Dryer vent to the attic or crawl space, seen too many times. So, Mark, we have to always, look at it because we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. So we have other people that are tuning into this that might have sick kids right now. They might have allergies or not have allergies, have something else going on in the house. And I think, some of these comments, like Rick just put up, that's a great comment because, go ahead, Cheryl. I bet you have a whole lot of thoughts on running dryer vents in the attic.
Absolutely. That white stuff that looks like lint is often actually mold. So you may look and say, oh, even in the crawl space, maybe they had, I looked in the crawl space. It looks like there's a lot of lint down there. It's white. So know that mold can be white and it can look like lint. The whole dryer vent, I have a client right now that has her dryer vent going out her soffit vent. Her dryer exhaust is going out the soffit
coming vent. Out and then back down on the house.
Well, she's got a major mold problem in her attic.
Yeah.
And the building is just not pressurized. So there's these things called the stack effect, which causes air to go out the roof. But when the wind blows against the building, it totally will change the air pressures in the building. And then you throw something like running your kitchen exhaust. That's creating negative pressure. And in a very tight house that doesn't have an ERV, for sure. But in most of our houses that are gotten a lot tighter, good windows, we're insulating well. If we run the exhaust fan, if we run a kitchen fan, if we run the dryer, if we run a furnace is exhausting outside, the hot water heater is exhausting outside. Those are actually creating negative pressure in our building, which helps to draw air from the attic in, from the crawl space, just from stack effect, it's going to end up in our living space. We're making our buildings out of pieces. And if you can research, I posted on my social media a few times about there's been a lot of deaths in Seattle at the Children's Hospital there due to mold. If we can't get the surgical suites right, if we can't get the hospital suites right, in terms of the air balance and managing humidity and moisture and bulk water, sometimes it's bulk water. Like I said, like what Mark showed of the water wicking up from the site because there's a puddle next to our foundation or the downspout isn't draining away. And there's all kinds of I have a bunch of webinars that talk about my top 10 things and all these little defects, but they're all things individuals can walk around their house and actually look for and make it better, make our buildings better, make them durable, and then try to keep our buildings in our space well.
Yeah, I mean, so on your site, the average person can basically go there and do some home diagnostics themselves, just to, see if they have something. And it sounds like it's fairly easy to do, and you've made it fair. I mean, just talking to you is easy. So I would imagine, watching your videos and everything you have going on is probably going to be an eye opener for a lot of people at home, to include myself. I know Mark's dialed in on this stuff really well, and I know my fair share, but it's like anything else, Yeah, I mean, you're a true expert in understanding all this. So with that said, what is going to be the wave of the future moving this forward?
Well, my suggestion to everyone is challenge conventional wisdom, challenge what we've always known. And there's a quote that I like to suggest that represents this. And the quote is, what gets us into trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so. So with that, I'll let you guys shut it down. Think for yourselves, everyone. Think for yourselves.
I love it.
Really, even if we know somebody told us this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
Maybe it was flawed in some way because we've changed how we work and how we build.
Cheryl, you had another quote, and we were speaking on Wednesday night, and I believe what you said is, when in doubt, don't do it.
When in doubt, leave it out.
Leave it out.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, I got to put my quote in. Come on now. If we're doing, my grandfather always said, let your conscience be your guide.
I just want to want it.
Right.
Dave, I think you need to put on the screen, challenge, what is it?
Challenge conventional wisdom.
Challenge
conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
So I've done programs on this topic. Everything from, does mold grow on concrete? Most people say no. I don't want a wood building. I want to avoid mold. I'm going to use a concrete building.
Yeah.
Or a steel building. Well, look up what happens to steel in a fire. Mark, right. Google fire in high-rise buildings.
If you take the cheap road, if you take the shortcut, if you go to a code minimum, my quote is, let the punishment fit the crime.
Yeah.
All right, there's another T-shirt. You guys are awesome. We're not going to have to do any more live shows. We're getting in the T-shirt business now.
The things you can't see would be what I suggested. So the things that we can't see in the buildings, the flashing, these details. Somebody has to design the mechanical system. It's actually a skill that a professional does, because if the mechanical system's too big,
hold on, Cheryl.
Super insulated home.
Are you saying that we shouldn't just have our contractor pick the largest furnace they can because bigger is better? That's
right. And I always use 12 ton or 2 ton or whatever ton it is. And it may be that the size of furnace, we've insulated our house so well, or our building so well, that the size of furnace is going to be oddly small. And to your point of your analogy of a truck starting and stopping, say that's really inefficient. And if your engine is too big, if your HVAC system is too big for your insulation and your windows and everything else you've designed and air sealing that you've done so well, then what ends up happening is the HVAC system turns on and off frequently because it only takes a few minutes and whoa, we're up to the right temperature.
There's something out there. If you're hiring a mechanical professional or you're having a building design, there's something out there. It's very simple for you to remember, especially if you were an old basketball fan. It's called Manual J. Manual J. And if that number is not provided or not even designed for, please move on to another contractor. There's brilliant, hardworking, dedicated mechanical and ventilation professionals out there. And if they don't use the word Manual J, and if they don't do the Manual J, they belong on your patio enjoying a beer, not in your building, providing comfort and health to your family and loved ones.
Exactly. Those manual J calculations they should be doing, and you can ask to see them.
So manual J, Mark, why don't you tell the audience what that actually is so they understand?
So they're oh gosh, this is where my shortcomings come into play. So it's the calculation, and it's inclusive of the space. So you're factoring in not the square footage of the floor, right? That's a great place to start, the square footage of the floor. But boy, there's probably a ceiling in there, or a cathedral ceiling, and it's the volume of the space, right? It's the cubic footage, the total volume of the space. And then you have things to consider. Imagine if the insulation on the building was or wasn't there.
Right.
Imagine if the air leakage was or wasn't there. Imagine that there might be windows in your house producing an incredible heat gain. These are complex things. Like Cheryl said, there's professionals that do it and do it well. So Manual J, just like Dr. J, makes the game a whole lot more enjoyable.
All right. So you're telling me that there's BS in this. That's what there's a ton of BS in everyone. And pros like yourself even look to pros that understand building science. They understand how this works, which all leads back to they didn't know this 100 years ago. So why are we still building like we're 100 years ago? That's kind of the whole thing, right?
You're only as good as your team. You're only as good as your team, right? We have so many incredible materials and training programs out there, but if your team member isn't there, right? If you're just the builder or the renovator, and you're not including your mechanical person to talk to your insulator and to talk to your window person and to say, oh, this building is in Arizona, not Florida. What are you talking about? 12-ton what?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's going to be a terrible meal that someone's going to get sick on.
For sure, for sure. Well, I mean, that's it, right? Let's hop into Q&A because this is BS Friday. It is about building science. You don't have to be the expert because there's experts out there. You can search them up just like Cheryl, just like Mark, when it comes to this stuff. You're not out there alone, and we hope we're always bringing people some new information, new knowledge, and I think that's what makes it fun. And the interaction we're about to go through is where it gets fun. So if you have questions, now is the time to ask them. And we're going to do some quick shout outs too. We had Anthony Good on. We had, I'm looking at the other screen, Joel Hutchins on. Muntaha Islam, I think is how you say it, was on.
Welcome.
Jason Myring, welcome.
Oh, Jason is a good friend of Cheryl's and mine. So he's part of the tribe. And,
love it.
Yeah, when you talk about someone that is, so he's an architect and he's passionate about specifics, right? About making sure that everyone in the pipeline is a part of the team. There's no surprise here to our friends that he's a love of prefab and modular. Right. And so shout out to you, Jason. Hello from the BS crew.
Love it. Love it. Perfect. We have Adam White, Mr. Purple is in the house. Love that. Love that. Okay.
Adam is in the UK, and I guarantee you his son is on his lap. His son is probably a better building scientist than most developers out there. So hats off to you and your family, Adam.
All right. David Gothel has made a comment. Rising damp sounds like good BS to be aware of. Okay. Another shirt.
Yeah.
Rising damp. You know, it's funny. We were putting those up and we put damn and then we corrected ourselves. So it's DAMP, isn't that right?
Yes.
Rising damp. Love it. Love it. Love it. And I want to go back. We put it up a few minutes ago, but you know, Sue Dietrich, you tell us what you do. I love that you're so interactive today. You know, you're putting up all kinds of information. We love it. We love the interaction. So, I mean, it's great how many people are really getting involved. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that after this is up on YouTube, I'm gonna repost it and she's gonna get tagged, right? Because she gave the input of the day. So virtual thumbs up to you,
right?
Sue.
Right.
And I'm gonna tag you and your peeps. Rick, I'm gonna call you this afternoon because you're just a brilliant friend. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Rick's a good guy. Definitely. I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything here. I am going through, because this is the thing, Cheryl. We used to wait until the end. Now we kind of do a little bit at a time, because the end can just go and go and go. And we want to make sure people are busy today. So let's put up your website again, so people know how to get a hold of you, Cheryl. I think that's very important. I think everything that you've talked to us about today and gone over, I mean, even myself, I have 3 kids. I got a 4-year-old. We got twin daughters, and we're gonna check some of this stuff. You take it for granted, like the allergies and all of that. I don't live in a new home. I've worked on my house. I think it's doing what it's supposed to do, but like everybody else, I'm busy. I just assume certain things because the doc said it's allergies, versus me doing a little bit of homework and learning.
Yeah, no, so my daughter's 25 now, and she does not have asthma or allergies. However, that doesn't mean she hasn't been affected along the way and had challenges. So she's 25. She had to go through college. College buildings are like synonymous. We had to move her 3 times, I think, in college.
Really? 3 times?
Yeah, because of reactions that she had. The first time was just she couldn't be in a certain dorm. I had to go to bat. And then she lived in Europe and France. So this is worldwide. This is not just in our country. She was in France, and she had a terrible mold exposure that my husband actually had to go and help her move, because she just couldn't even function to be able to move herself. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Some people are more sensitive. And so I would liken that to the canary in the coal mine. And so, long ago in coal mining, people would carry this little bird down into the coal mines. And if the air was bad in the bottom of the coal mine, that bird would die very quickly. But the people who wouldn't be dead yet would see that this little bird died, and that's their warning
to get out,
because they would be next.
Right.
So we want to really not ostracize people who are, they're sick and I'm not. Well, no, they're the canary. There's people among us, and I'm one of them. I'm more sensitive, that are sensitive. And if they say that they're having a reaction somewhere, I listen. And I would consider that and I'd say, well, I'm not, but maybe my time will come. So you want to pay attention to these people among us who are more sensitive and say, well, maybe there is something there that is going to affect me later. But it tends to affect children. These toxins tend to children, small children, babies, and the elderly, even more than some of us that are in the mid of our life. Young people and teenagers, not so much. But again, it's their DNA. So I have 4 children that I raised, and they're all young adults, but only one is super sensitive. Right. And the other's variable.
Well, that's great. And thanks to you, they're living healthier lives now.
Yeah, but it's a lifestyle too. So don't neglect all the other toxins. It's a different topic than buildings, but the personal products we use, the cleaning products, the food we eat, all those things.
I think there's another T-shirt in that golden nugget you just shared, Cheryl, and take care of yourselves and your buildings, or they'll take care of you. Right.
That's right.
It's all one system. So we want to look at our buildings as a system. So my definition of what building science is it's a systems approach. It's looking at all the pieces. And when we look at our health, we should probably be looking at all the pieces too.
For sure.
Speaking of pieces, things come together, right? Every Friday, people come together for BS Fridays. And one of the pieces coming up, Dave, is should I say, or do you want to say what Friday's going to be?
No, you go ahead. Put it out there. Let's go.
I believe it's Rise Buildings.
Build with Rise. Build with
Rise. So
they're a big online community.
That's our nugget for next Friday. Tomorrow we can have coffee with Dave. Jennifer, you're there. You've got a modular coming up Tuesday. Hey, Jennifer.
Yes. Behind the scenes, doing all the nice hard work, helping us out. She's ready to kill me now.
It's good to see you.
Modular is great. I do think it's a wave of the future, by the way, because I think that just like we build a Tesla, it's very specialized. We're not going to build the Tesla on the parking lot of the factory.
Right. Yeah.
we need to be able to really bring the science that we're coming up with and refine it in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And then we need to pay attention to everything else. But
So if we don't build our cars in the factory, maybe we should build our buildings in the factory.
Oh, wow, that's a unique idea. I mean, I don't know anybody who does that.
If they're going to be highly technical and need to perform to certain metrics, needs to get to 0 to 60 and be energy efficient and all these things, are we really going to do that, outside with whoever shows up that day?
Precision equals performance. Precision equals performance.
It really does. Well, listen, Cheryl, we really appreciate you having us on. We're going to give a couple quick plugs. Monday, tomorrow's Coffee with Dave. So, we'll do, I think we might be on the road. I might have to pull over at a truck stop and do it from there, but we're going to do it one way or the other.
Truck stop coffee with Dave. Truck stop.
There you go. Maybe I'll interview a trucker, huh? That'll be cool. They keep America going, these guys. But also Monday, we're going to have Tom Reddy. We're going to have Synergy Steel on. They're doing steel fabricated structures, panelization, which is going to be great. And then Wednesday, we have Urbaneer on Wednesday, right?
Bruce Thompson. Shout out to our buddy Bruce Thompson in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who's currently in California.
Yeah, for sure. So Bruce Thompson. And then, Thursday, we always have Increasing Our Influence with Miles Biggs. And hey, everybody stay tuned. We have Professor Nez coming on. If you don't know Professor Nez, he's a professor, and he's a guru when it comes into building brand and increasing influence. And then, this Friday, like you said, Build with Rise is going to be on, and that's going to be big. You want to talk about people that are tied into all the building knowledge that's happening out in the world. These guys are tied in. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So Mark, you want to take us out?
I think we're all blessed today to hear this insight in your background, Cheryl. I'll give a small segue that we're going to have you back to talk specifically about your wood background. We just need about 4 hours to get a small taste of your wood background. That's how we met 12 some years ago at a Passive House meeting. And so I thank you for being here. I encourage everyone to go to Avoiding Mold. You find that Cheryl is, your neighbor next door, and she'll help you with your buildings. Dave, enjoy the time with your family, and enjoy your blessed weekend together.
Yeah, you guys as well. Thanks so much, Cheryl. It was an honor and a pleasure meeting you. Mark, as always, man, I love the Green Masters jacket. We will see everybody next Friday. I'm Dave Cooper. That is Mark Bare Naked Willie and Cheryl Ciecko for joining us. You guys rock.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.